4 decades after they parted ways, the Beatles still hold the top spot on every conceivable list of the greatest recording artists of all time. Not only do they beat all comers in the realms of critical and commercial success, no other pop act before or since has even come close to matching the Fab Four in terms of innovation and social impact. With pop music still in its infancy back in the early 60s, the lads from Liverpool broke so much musical, lyrical, stylistic and cultural ground that by the time they split in 1970, they'd left little new territory for successive generations of musicians to explore. As well as through their own catalogue of recordings, which continue to attract new fans every year, the Beatles have lived on through the legacy of their unmistakable influence on music ever since. There could be no doubt, however, that in creating such a hard act to follow, John, Paul, George and Ringo were also making a rod for their own backs, condemning themselves to a lifetime of comparison to their days as a Beatle. Whatever they chose to turn their hand to, their subsequent achievements would forever be judged against the unmatchable benchmark they'd set as a group. This is the story of what happened next. Often referred to as the first Beatle, John Lennon, along with his wife Yoko Ono, has often been blamed for the breakup of the supergroup. The story goes that after meeting Yoko at one of her exhibitions in 1966, John became more and more infatuated with the Japanese-American conceptual artist. They began an affair in 1968, bringing about John's divorce from his first wife, Cynthia. From then on, he and Yoko were joined at the hip, frequently appearing in interviews together, like this one, in which they extolled the virtues of a form of expression known as howling.
Communicate with you, and there, you don't intellectualize communication, you just howl,
But how does a howl...
I think that's an expression that's not so intellectualized as words, It's just like...
pure sound.
Show me
Pure sound. Well, anything. That's howling.
Something like that.
Not only did they record their own avant-garde music together, John also insisted that Yoko be allowed artistic input into the Beatles recordings, widening the cracks that had already begun to appear within the band. In 1969, John and Yoko formed the Plastic Ono Band, which included Eric Clapton on lead guitar. The rapturous reception they received at that year's Toronto Rock and Roll Revival and the success of their anti-war anthem, Give Peace a Chance, which was written during John and Yoko's famous bed-in honeymoon, consolidated John's decision to leave the Beatles. Despite subsequent renegotiations of a new contract, it was all over bar the shouting, and John was already well on his way to a successful solo career. The following year, he explored the pain of losing his mother and splitting from the Beatles in John Lennon Plastic Ono Band, which featured the song Working Class Hero, complete with the famous expletive that saw it banned from BBC Radio. The change in artistic direction came with a new haircut, which saw him casting off his famous flowing locks and sporting a short back and sides.
We just got cheesed off with it, It was getting in my ears. It's just the same way I grew it, I just felt like having it. Now I feel like having it short.
It's for the new year,
We wanted a new year head,
I don't want to sound unkind, but don't you think that this may have been construed as just another Lennon stunt?
Well, we tried to keep it quiet. I don't care. It came useful for this,
Like more stunts like that?
Yeah, more stunts the better. But when we cut it, we didn't think of that. We were just cutting it in private in the farmhouse. And I asked the chick that cut it to be quiet, and she lasted 3 days before she broke the news. Because I could have driven around Europe, you see, in disguise. Nobody would have known, but she just couldn't keep her mouth shut.
Being granted the luxury of anonymity was just one of the hopes John Lennon held for the future. In the